Hey guys, it's Shimshin. Welcome to my channel. So today I want to just quickly give my thoughts on Vanguard in general and then present three Necro Vanguard builds that you can use to switch between depending on your needs, and also talk about how to you might tweak one of them to get a good raid build or Gauntlet build, basically filling in the gaps where Auroth has not updated recently, and in PvE builds, filling in some of those gaps. Before I get into any of that, I just want to mention for general Vanguard tips, Mao has a video where he goes into detail on Vanguard. I'll put that in the description, and another one where he ranks the charms. So, in my opinion, well, first of all, yeah, the charm rank is, but in general, the most important thing on a charm, it's like resonance on steroids. 4K resonance would only increase your base attributes on your equipment by 200%, which is the life and damage that is directly listed on the equipment, whereas a rank 12 charm increases all life and damage by 980%. It definitely is. If you thought resonance was powerful, the Vanguard rank, charm rank, is way more powerful than resonance. And nonetheless, I would drop maybe one or two ranks to get better effect. For example, use the Blight Orb Bane instead of the Warp Strike Bane, unless somebody else is also using the Blight Orb, and maybe two ranks at most. If you want a particular charm effect, depending on your group composition, I probably wouldn't drop down more than that. Like, even though these are good effects, the heal and might charms that I have. So those are my general thoughts on charms, and basically, they also the resonance, your resonance and combat rating do have some effect on the numbers that you see on these charms, but that it's not enough of an impact in general that I would recommend giving more priority than normal to resonance and combat rating for Vanguard. Okay, so let's get into the builds now. So the first build that I'll be presenting is should be the most familiar to people that have been keeping up with Auroth's Necro builds, and that is the DPS build for Vanguard. So let's start with the skills. We've got Bone Spear, Bone Armor, Grim Scythe, Command Golem, and Skeletal Mage. For the set, I'm using the standard sustained set combo for Sustained Summoner DPS, which is 4 Vithus and 4 Shepherds. 6 Shepherds, 2 Vithus would give you more burst, but you're looking for consistency in Vanguard. And okay, let's go into the essences now. So first of all, I'm using Decrepit Visage, and then this helm basically makes it so your golem roars, and every 2 seconds extends the duration of your mages by 2 seconds, so it allows you to have 100% uptime on your mages, as long as you have close to 100% uptime on your golem. And I'll get into making sure that you do later on. For the chest, I'm using Parting Gift, even in the DPS variant. It's an oldie but goodie, but this is Vanguard, and I think this is just too useful. The Bone Armor now grants you and all nearby party members 5 charges of damage immunity for 12 seconds. Each charge prevents all damage from a single hit. Okay, so Auroth tends to focus on DPS, but in Vanguard, until everybody in your group has super high ranked charms and no longer needs it, I would use Bone Armor, the Parting Gift. Now for shoulders, I'm using Executive Discontent, which for most of Vanguard, for all the most difficult part of Vanguard, you should have 6 mages up, which will give you the maximum benefit from Executive Discontent, which is a crazy 57% increase to all your damage. Yeah, it's insane. So then let's go next to the pants and this main hand, which go together. So this is the Dot Purge package, and let's see what they do. So Grim Scythe now empowers you with Grim Calling for 5 seconds. While empowered, your primary attacks unleashes Slashing Skies when it hits an enemy, dealing damage to nearby enemies and generating a corpse. But the most important thing about this is that it's the version of Grim Sky that triggers most frequently, that you can basically keep triggering most frequently, and then you pair that with the pants, which go Grim Sky now triggers all continual damage on the target it hits, causing them to instantly take the remaining damage. So that's a great one to pair with damage over time effects, and particularly ones that reapply. And so that's Craving Bay Main Hand and Ravening Silence pants. So that's why I'm actually using Desolatoria. We have two golems that apply a continuous damage effect, Desolatoria and Pleasant Venom. But between the two of them, Desolatoria actually applies it to everyone around. Command Golem now summons a Molten Golem that continuously burns on all nearby enemies, and while it's active, you can order the Golem to deal damage and on impact on nearby enemies. But the burning to all nearby enemies, that's going to really help in Vanguard, because you spend most of your time fighting packs, and it can help people with win skills have a consistent firestorm and all of that. So it's a great choice of Golem, in my opinion. Then we're going with the latest offhand of Black Wall for the mages, and this lets the mages move with you. So that's extremely good for Vanguard, because you don't have to resummon your mages at every spire and then again at the boss. After the first spire, you can just start with all 6 mages up. So it's very, very good, and these do good AoE damage too, especially. Not the highest single target, but they do good AoE damage. And then for the other offhand, I'm using Corrosive Slab, and that called Man Golem also makes enemies vulnerable, causing them to take 15.2% increased damage. So Auroth has made a comment based on his testing that this is not a standard armor break, and so it will actually stack with other armor breaks such as Lingering Wounds. So for this build, I would definitely use your standard PvE companion, which ideally should have the Lingering Wound skill, that enemies affected by the abnormal status, that's the continuous damage from the familiar skill, take 16 points, this is with mine based on a rare skill. It's already a great armor break, and the legendary one is potentially the best in the game. You want to pair this with Skitterite or Brood Talon, because they both have active skills that deal damage over time, so it'll refresh the duration of Lingering Wounds on them. And then ideally, you also want it to have high insight to increase the effect of the Lingering Wounds. Okay, so basically what Auroth says is that this Corrosive Slab armor break is a different kind of armor break, which it'll have somewhat reduced effect when it's stacked with another armor break like Lingering Wounds, but it'll still have an effect. And I'm using just the top part of Slinger, the old Weaver skills, because the last I heard, the right side, which used to be Ranger, does not work with summons. I haven't tested or seen any testing of it since they merged the trees like this, but I'm just going with the old Weaver. For the legendary gems, basically you can use Auroth's Summoner package, Summoner Range DPS package, which includes basically all of the gems that I'm using, except instead of Seeping Bile, he uses Echoing Shade. And then instead of, let's see, my other dot gems, so instead of the Everlasting Torment, he uses Bloody Reach, and then instead of Viper's Bite, he uses Pain Clasp. And of course, that combined with these other ones is the super strong package for summon DPS. I will point out in Vanguard, though, that since you're fighting monsters most of the time, then these damage over time gems are more, they're better than they are in raids, let's say, because especially if you hit somebody with the Craving Bay, Grim Scythe, a monster that's got your dot gems on it, it's gonna basically one-shot that monster. So yeah, it's not a bad combo to use, although the Auroth's setup is probably even more ideal. Now, let's see, for the Warband room buff, you want to go with Attacker. And yeah, here I usually use Block Chance 5% with the Shepherd's Burden Remnant that increases my size, which increases my movement speed. But in Vanguard, movement speed is not very important, so I would go with Attacker, damage done increased by 3.5%. And, especially if you've got some good remnants with it, I think the damage bonus for the Attacker gives you more than the defensive bonus from Protector. Okay, now for curse properties, the ideal for a summoner build would be 6 Vexed and 2 Lashed. Okay, and for Reforges, the standard summoner package, and that would be, let's see, so 3 Wildfire, crit damage, primary attack damage, and skill damage. So slightly different from what I have. Beneficial effects duration, and also summon damage instead of attack speed. The attack speed as a base attack speed, like on gear and Reforges, does not apply to your summons. Buff attack speed does. So that's why you want the summon damage instead of attack speed, ideally. And now you can have 2 Reforge slots at the blacksmith, so you could specialize one for summon builds and one for other content or PvP or whatever. Okay, now for magic attributes, basically the same ones that are good generally for the offensive slots, helm, shoulders, and weapons. You want to look for crit chance followed by crit damage and primary damage. And you also, another good one to have for this particular build is the Eternal Affix that gives your mages a shield. So that, aside from shielding them, it triggers Vithus on them and Bottled Hope. So there we go, that's that. And for other slots, you want to stack beneficial effects duration on your chest, legs, belt, and boots. And you want to stack a combination of summon damage to summons and cooldown reduction on your actually for this build, summon damage is more important than cooldown reduction on your neck, gloves, and rings. Okay, and that's it for the DPS build. Now let's see what we're changing in the balanced variant. So for the balanced variant, one thing I'm changing is I'm using 6-piece Vithus to grant the healing circle to all my allies. And yeah, it's a big radius. Everybody should stand on the spire. and it definitely helps everybody survive. So 6 Vithus and 2 Shepherds, a little less DPS, but more survivability for everyone. And another big change is Familiar. I'm using Familiar with Savior over one with Lingering Wounds. Obviously, one with both would be super ideal, but yeah, if you just have one PvE companion with Lingering Wounds and one PvP companion with Savior, I would use the Savior one here for this balanced variant. And also on the Paragon, I decided to actually go for Survivor. And yeah, also the legendary skill. So the one that gives the highest DPS would be the Lightning Rod. But here I'm using Benefactor. It gives another shield. And the main skills that I'm using are in Survivor. That would be the Cheat Death. I see some people still using Gladiator Cheat Death in PvE, and you should read the fine print that fatal attacks from players. So this does not apply to monsters, whereas this one does. This is the PvE Cheat Death, Indestructible, that fatal attacks from monsters. It's reduce you to 1 life and make you immune to all damage, etc. This thing gives a stacking damage reduction, unyielding. Then Stalwart, whenever you drop below 30% life, you gain 35% increased block chance. And then you pair that with Regeneration and Resilient, which together, Resilient increases this to 5%. So whenever you drop below 30% life, you will regain 5% of your maximum life per second for every nearby party member for 6 seconds. And this is particularly good for Vanguard, in my opinion, because you should always be stacked on top of the Spire or the boss altogether. And so then this will give 5% per second for 6 seconds. That's 30% per nearby party member. So that can give you, depending on whether it counts you, it'll give you roughly your full life back, which is great. So this is part of Apothecary, which used to be, I never found a good reason to use this over other survivals trees, but now that you can mix and match, I'm going with this, with Indestructible and the other ones I mentioned. Okay, and now let's look at the essence changes here. So let's see, I switched to Pleasant Venom because I'm no longer using a Familiar with Lingering Wounds. So Pleasant Venom, the 10% armor break from Pleasant Venom does not stack with the Lingering Wounds. And yeah, that's basically the sum of the changes for this variant. And then let's go to the most tanky, the one that's most focused on survival. And to be honest, I would not use this one. This is, I think, overkill for survival. The only times that I'd use this would be if you're either being carried and or you're using the Martyr Charm. Okay, so because the Martyr Charm can kill you if you use the active ability unless you've got either very tanky and or have 9 lives or whatever. So another thing that we're changing out here is swapping Grimscythe for Borrowed Time, and there are monsters even around the boss at the end. So yeah, this will trigger at basically throughout Vanguard, even another cheat death ability. And let's see the essence changes. So yeah, since I switched out Grimscythe, I'm using Wicked Husker, which gives a Bone Spear, also destroys enemy armor for 3.2 seconds, increasing the critical hit damage they take by 20%, and that stacks with normal armor breaks. It's a different effect. And then Undying Malice Pants, which the bone armor also increases critical hit chance by 14%. And I mean, if you really need it, because you've been completely ignoring beneficial effects duration and cooldown reduction, then you could, use the duration pants if you don't have 100% duration on bone armor. Okay, so that's basically it. And now let me, for the main builds, and now let me discuss how I might tweak the DPS version in order to get a good raid build. So raid and gauntlet. So gauntlet, for hard gauntlets, you probably want to keep parting gift for survivability. And let's see what else. The Pleasant Venom probably, I've heard it deals the highest single target DPS, and you don't get 100% uptime on your lingering wounds from your familiar, even if it's a Skitter White or Brood Talon. So, that Pleasant Venom would also allow you to have 100% uptime on some armor break. And for the offhand, this is convenient, the Black Wall, to not have to worry about positioning. But if you do want to maximize your DPS, you could go with, by default, the Viscerai's Coffin Lid will yield the highest single target DPS. If you are going DPS and you're using Stormcaller's Bones for the chest, then it's pretty close to use the Lightning Mages instead. Crest of the Skyfallen is pretty close for single target if you pair it with the shock debuff. So you could get the shock debuff from using the Lightning Golem instead, or you could, if you have somebody in your party, like a wizard running the latest helm, for example, that's applying shock, that would buff your Stormcaller Bones and your Lightning Mages if you choose to use Lightning Mages. So those kinds of tweaks could make this into a great raid and gauntlet build, and I would really be interested to see if Auroth or somebody that is really meticulous about the details of his build. He has a high DPS raid build, but it does depend on getting really precise, cooldowns for your mages and your golem, and also precise timing when you're playing it. So, this type of raid and gauntlet build, I'd be interested to see how it compares in DPS, but this one is more convenient in my opinion. So anyway, that's about it, and now I'll show some gameplay. Okay, so first I'm going in with a party that's got a rank 8 defense charm, a rank 10 defense charm, a rank 11 defense charm, and then we're going to get one other member.
A new partner. Very well.
And this guy's got a rank 12 heal charm. Now the charm composition there is not ideal. My charm is the Martyr charm, and I decided to start out here by running the survival build, and you want to always start out by summoning a mage and your golem. And here I make a mistake. I activate all my skills, including the borrowed time. And yeah, of course I don't need borrowed time here, so it's wasted. Don't do that. Just wait for it to automatically trigger. But basically we beat this easily, and my borrowed time never actually went off, aside from this mistake of activating it initially. So there you go. It's I think it's overkill unless you're running overkill for survivability, unless you're running both Martyr charm and possibly just being carried, because when you're carried, you need you get better rewards the more people are alive at the end. So if you're being carried, your main job to actually contribute is to stay alive till the end, and therefore make sure that you all get as much loot as possible. Okay, seeing as that was survivability and overkill and survivability, so here's a rank 14, a rank 12 Bane, a rank 15 Bane, and a rank 12 heal. First one is defense. So yeah, as I mentioned before, the first one, I think that survivability build was overkill in survivability, so I switched to the balance build and did quite well with that. And yeah, we cleared it all. So here you definitely do want to just use all your skills on cooldown, except for maybe the bone armor. You can wait until it's actually expired or it's close to running out. You don't want to. Yeah, you don't want to wait until it's naturally expired, because then your allies or somebody could go without it when they really need it in a crucial time. But anyway, this game was pretty straightforward, so I will now show you the third game that we did. Okay, so in this last clip, I am using the DPS variant, and we lost one person running the defense charm, and we gained a second healer with a rank 12 heal charm. That would be Horror Queen, and notice that Horror Queen was running Stormcaller's Bones, so that's a good mix, depending on your party strength relative to the difficulty of the Vanguard that you're running. And yeah, I just wanted to show what that looks like now, in starting from the third shard and now making our way to the boss. And yeah, we basically killed this boss with was that 7.68 billion health, and we killed it with a decent amount of time left over, and really there's not much to it. Just everybody stay grouped up. When you've got enough heals and damage immunity and shields and all that, then you don't even need to move when you get corruption. So anyway, this boss now is going down, basically half health now, and there's not much else to say about it. So I want to thank you for watching this to the end, if you've stayed this far, and I hope that this guide helps you. And if you did find it helpful, then please like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. All right, take care.